Yeah, but there has been some talk of other, maybe more human transport friendly options with electric planes. So we had Elon
again.
Elon again's been mouthing off
This is what he does.
about an electric jet concept he's dreamt up at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he's been talking about it for a while, and
he's mentioned it quite a few times over the last few years.
He actually mentions it, I think, when he makes an appearance in Iron Man 2. I think Tony Stark says something to him, and he says, "Hi Tony, I've come up with an idea for an electric jet."
That's right.
And then,
I'd forgotten about that.
And then he goes away.
Yeah. That's it. I think that's his line. I'd forgotten that even was a thing.
Yeah.
He was in that.
But his concept's a bit or much more out there.
We don't know much about it.
No, we don't know much about it. There's no official announcements.
Other than just a few details. It's going to be supersonic for a start.
Yeah.
I mean, already you forget your solar powered sort of little.
Yeah. Trundlers.
Trundlers. Yeah, and this thing is going to be supersonic. So that's pretty sweet already.
Yeah. And VTOL.
Vertical takeoff and landing. I mean, yes, you could land it on top of a building, like have a landing platform on the side of a building or something like that in a city, or I mean, probably not, but you don't need a runway. I mean, you
can land it on ships or whatever.
Land it on ships. It sounds
mental.
It's a proper Elon idea, isn't it?
Yeah,
let's just do something completely out there and insane.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe he might find after he steps aside from Tesla that this is what he does, but we'll see.
So how does an electric jet? So it's going to have, with a solar powered plane, you obviously need some storage on there, but in terms of this type of thing, a supersonic one, you're going to have huge battery packs, right?
Huge
batteries are heavy.
Batteries are heavy, and I think that the batteries are going to be the bulk of the mass of the aircraft.
Yes.
Because, that's the technology. I think actually the technology we have currently for batteries isn't quite there. Elon said something like they need a certain level of, I think it was like 400 watt hours per kilo.
Oh, right.
Which is about double-ish the capacity of the highest capacity Teslas in terms of mass of battery to energy yield.
Okay.
So the battery technology is just not there yet to make it viable.
I don't know how long the battery technology for that type of capacity has been stuck at around that type of level.
I've no idea.
I don't know if it's going to take an entirely new type of battery technology to get up to the level that the 400 mark.
Or whether it's just a case of refining and
iterating on lithium, or these more familiar types of technology.
I have absolutely no idea, but the fact that Elon keeps making comments about it.
Keep referring to him by just Elon as if we know him.
As if we know him, yeah.
But I can't be bothered to keep saying Elon Musk, and everyone knows what we mean.
Yeah.
Anyway, Carol.
Our mate Elon. Our guy, Elon.
My boy.
Yeah.
Elon, my boy.
That's him. What was I even saying? He said that just the fact that he's been saying this stuff more and more, is it more and more? But the fact that he's been saying that he's got this concept for electric jet makes you think that it's not something that's far in the distant future and waiting for some kind of unknown battery technology that doesn't yet exist. Just the fact that he's been teasing it makes you think that there's more to it than that.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, as if he's got an idea to solve this problem.
Yes, either solve it or he thinks that it's an imminent thing that will be solved. That it is just an iterative process and we'll eventually get to that point. Unless
he's got a slightly madder idea. In that
he's got a battery idea.
A battery idea, or you carry a smaller battery and recharge it during the flight somehow.
Wow. Yeah, that I wouldn't put that past him.
I don't know how you'd recharge something from the ground if you could. I'm thinking lasers again. Project Starshot. Blast it with a laser.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't
know why I'd blast it with a laser, but some way of injecting some power back into the battery so it can be half the size essentially.
Yeah, but they reckon they're going to cut down on
in air refueling or something.
Yeah, like they do with jets, like fighter jets.
Seems an unnecessary.
It does seem a bit weird to have to do that
for a commercial aircraft. It's probably quite dangerous, I'd imagine, as well. Yeah. Maybe not dangerous, but adds some risk.
But anyway, because a significant mass of the aircraft is going to be batteries, they're going to apparently cut down on other stuff. For example, flaps. The what they call control surfaces. This is all just the stuff that's come out of rumors, basically. But the Reddit and other places.
Yeah.
The flaps on the wings on commercial aircrafts. They're gonna I don't know about get rid of them, but have less of them.
Yes.
Presumably they add complexity and therefore mass and things like that.
They talked about and drag and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's because they can vector
pivot
the thrusts and stuff.
Yes.
So they can steer it that way instead and gimbal them and whatever.
That's going to be cool.
And so that's how it would change direction in different ways rather than using well,
if you're going to land it vertically, maybe I'm imagining that you have these fully pivoting whatever these electric jets are going to be, we'll chat about that in a sec, could potentially pivot 90 degrees down to land the thing.
Yeah.
Like propulsively.
Yes.
So you use them.
That's the idea. That seems to be roughly what you're thinking.
Yeah. So you use them to pitch and all that crap, get rid of those control surfaces.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah.
And maybe we have to start thinking about, instead of, because batteries are going to be such a big part of the mass of the thing, maybe you take less passengers, and maybe because it will be cheaper, maybe I'm just guessing, it'd be cheaper than normal.
It'd be cheaper to fuel
combustion aircraft.
It'd be cheaper to fuel it, obviously.
Yeah, you just get used to having more of these in a fleet and having more flights per day and taking the same number of passengers that way, but having smaller numbers of people on board each flight, maybe.
Possibly. I'm not quite sure how it will all scale up, and I mean we're just totally guessing here. But that's a possibility. I mean, smaller aircraft tend to be a bit less stable, a bit more kind of, and they're not as pleasant to ride smaller aircraft. Although people pay out their asses to go on private jets, so maybe that doesn't matter.
And not necessarily mean smaller, but I mean, imagine
less capacity.
Less capacity. So imagine an aircraft the size of like a 747.
Yeah.
But that has totally made up numbers here, but has half the capacity for passengers because so much of that space and mass is taken up with batteries. Yeah. That's a lot of batteries.
It is. I mean, they're
going to need them though, because it's going to have to compete with intercontinental long distance.
Yes. Yeah.
To be a thing.
Well, he was talking about it being an intercontinental.
To basically be a replacement, to do to the aircraft industry, the commercial aircraft industry, what Tesla is currently doing to cars.
Yeah. And making it faster, making it potentially cheaper, making these things be able to land in all sorts of bizarre places.
Yeah.
On helipads. Basically. You don't need. Yeah. You could land almost anywhere.
Yeah.
So the infrastructure is much lower. So I see what you mean. Yeah, it's a similar analogy. But you're right. They can't do this if they want to make it as a replacement for that. It has to be able to do flights from Europe to Australia. It has to be able to do these types of long haul flights, which means with current battery technology, that's probably not possible.
Probably not.
Doing supersonic flight.
Yeah, that's going to be very energy intensive
with passengers on board.
Yeah, so that brings you on to the next thing, which is how the hell does it work?
Well,
electric. Obviously, we have no idea what his idea is, but a jet engine is essentially at the most basic level just a focused jet of something that creates thrust, and that can be gas or you can have jets in water.
Yeah. A squid has jet propulsion.
Exactly. Yeah. Jet skis or jet propelled.
They're mad fast. You've been on a jet ski?
Yeah, they're good fun.
I've never been on one, but they look mental.
They're pretty scary. The first time, because you think it's going to be a bit like a bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. A bit like a bike. But water doesn't behave in the same way that a road behaves.
Yes.
So you turn the handlebars and you're at the mercy of the wind and the drift and the waves and stuff. Yeah. So that's a bit sketchy. And when you're at full speed and you turn and you don't quite turn properly, maybe you've hit a little wave and you're slightly in the air.
It's a bit bouncy, isn't it, the water?
Yeah. It's pretty sketchy. It's fun though. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. Anyway, so tangent, but so the electric jets, so normal jet engines, the commercial airliners, work by basically combusting gas inside a small chamber, sucking in air. So basically, you have these big fans on the front.
Yeah.
Some of the air that gets sucked in through those fans goes into this chamber to be combusted with gas.
Yeah.
And that basically provides the energy to drive the fan.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the air that coming through that fan is just being channeled through a nozzle at the back, and that's what creates the thrust, or most of the thrust.
So there's a big bypass. There's a lot of air that goes around the main jet engine.
Yeah. Exactly. And they're called high bypass.
Yeah.
turbofans.
That makes them quite efficient at using fuel, and that's why they use them.
Yeah. And you get low bypass ones that are used more on like fighter jets and that kind of thing, where most of the energy is coming from the actual combusted hot gas.
Yeah, just the amount of air going round it is
much lower.
Yeah.
So this, you'd imagine then that an electric jet would be basically all the air going through the fan would be being used as thrust.
Yeah, you wouldn't have a
combustion chamber. You just be driving that fan with electricity. That's essentially. It. So it's basically just a propeller forcing air through a nozzle. It's essentially what it's doing. And the fact that you can get that to supersonic speeds is insane.
I wonder what that does for heating and things. So if you think back to the reaction engines stuff, the scimitar engine and stuff, I think one of the reasons that has to have that precool on is because all the inside of the jet engine gets melted to shit if it goes too fast.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, without anything going into the engine itself. Maybe it's easier to make it more heat proof or something. That's a guess. I have absolutely no idea.
I wonder how the speeds compare. Maybe
like the theoretical maximum.
Maybe the Sabre engine speeds are just way higher. Therefore, the temperatures are way higher.
Yes, but I'm just saying you might not have that problem of this having to build this fancy pre-cooler. And even if you had to build a pre-cooler, it might still not be as sensitive to heat energy because there's nothing passing through the bowels of the engine in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what this design looks like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'm just totally speculating. I'm absolutely
sure. The problem in the Sabre engines, the problem in those kinds of engines up until this cooling system in the Sabre engine, is that the air is compressed basically, right, and that's what generates the heat.
Yeah.
But the air has to be compressed for the ramjet portion of it to work.
No, there's no. They still get compressed in jet engines though as well.
Yeah, of course it does, but probably to a much lesser extent.
It does, but if it's going I'm just saying to get to a higher speed, it's going to need to be compressed more and more and more and more.
Yeah,
because there's more energy coming in.
Yeah.
Or at least it has to be, there has to be an exchange.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It creates more heat. Because it doesn't have to pass through the engine in the same way, the bowels of the engine where the combustion is, and where maybe the more delicate parts are. Just maybe you don't have to. You don't have such a problem with heat energy. You can just sort of encase the electric motors and things within a small heat shield in the middle, which then drives the props at the front.
Yeah.
And the rest of the fan engine. I just wonder if there's a way that actually it helps you with these types of temperature problems, and that's one of the reasons they're thinking about supersonic being quite possible.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, that's a guess, but
it's a guess. I wonder then if you could build a half electric, half rocket engine space plane.
It's probably too heavy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Probably too heavy, unless you've got a ludicrous battery technology.
Yeah.
But I mean, possibly if it can get to deliver the same power to weight ratio as liquid hydrogen.
Yeah.
That they have in the Skylon.
Yeah.
Then theoretically you could, but obviously the battery technology is the killer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, so basically, we don't really know how this engine is going to work.
No.
And how the inner workings of it are going to be, and what the temperature kind of levels of it or anything like that are going to be. But it's possible that this is a sort of sidestepping that problem, maybe.
Yeah. Now the question is, who's going to? So obviously, Elon Musk is very busy. The busy man.
Yes.
So he's just sort of talked about it. So Tesla. He may, potentially leave Tesla once once they've sorted out the Model 3. That's been talked about for a while. He's mentioned that before. We'll see when that happens. It will happen eventually, probably. It seems to be suggesting it. So, will this be his next project after Tesla? I mean,
maybe.
It's more ambitious potentially than something like Tesla. But is it more ambitious than SpaceX? I mean,
it's possibly not more ambitious than SpaceX.
If you consider SpaceX's end goal to colonize Mars, I mean, there's not really anything more.
And considering where he started from, he was just a guy.
Yeah, and no one had ever done it before.
No one had ever done it before. He just went to try and buy a rocket a missile from Russia.
Yeah, I'm going to buy some ICBMs from Russia. Anyway, this is a different story.
Yeah.
But there's going to be people willing to back these risky adventures of his now.
Yeah.
He won't have so much trouble convincing investors.
Yeah.
Because, and also he'll be really, if he sells portions of his other companies, he'll have a load of money by that time. then maybe this project would get off the ground faster than you might than his previous project. Yeah. So yeah, maybe this is his next thing. I mean, he's talked about Hyperloop and he thinks that's a cool thing to work on, but I feel like he's given that idea to other people, and he's just kind of he's
all sort of said that he's not going to work on that.
Has he?
I mean, he's not said he's never going to work on it.
Right.
But he's made it quite a thing that I'm not. This isn't my company. This isn't my thing. I'm just putting it out there. Whereas the electric jet thing, he has said it made it sound a bit more like, oh, I should do something about that, or I'm thinking about doing this. So yeah, maybe.